want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Wasn't that ridiculous? Did you notice? Did you see me reach for the microphone? The microphone. Right as the theme song was ending. Wow. That was something. Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, at least for now. I will see you in November. I'll see you in November. Western Hemisphere, North American continent, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 27th of October, 2024. We are just, if you even want to still count today, I know that there are candidates throughout the country, given the time difference. Here in the Northeast, we are pretty much shut down, I think, for a Sunday. But of course, across the country, the campaigning continues. So we are 9 days or 8 days, depending on how you want to look at it, left with this election cycle. And I have to tell you, just speaking for me alone, which is kind of all I really ever do here. Goodness knows nobody's ever required to agree with me about anything. To be honest. But speaking for me, and it might sound strange. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it does. I am. I'm looking forward to the end. I really am. I know it sounds a little crazy, considering that we do this for a living here, right? This is what we do. We talk politics. We talk. I mean, it just is what it is. This is what we do, and I'm ready. I'm kind of ready for the end of it, man. It is really something. I'm surprised that I feel this strongly about it, to be honest. But it is. I'm just about done, and I'm not necessarily proud of that feeling, to be honest. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the person that is, I'm sick of this damn politics and blah, blah, blah. Because we can't be that way. We can't be that way. It's not good. We can't be that way. We have to be engaged. We need to be engaged. I think it's the least that we can do civically is to be engaged. And it's just the least that we can do, it would seem to me. It is a genuine minimum of our civic duties, of our job, if you will, of being a citizen, or being just a resident, not even just a citizen, but a resident. I mean, I know and knew of in my life, very honored to be that way, so many expatriates who were either dual citizenship here in the States, or who had become citizens here in the States, who were powerfully engaged in what was going on because they lived here and it mattered to them, and it still does. And I just hope that you all can feel the same way. It's easy to be tired. It's easy to be sick of it. It's easy to be, if you're a big NFL fan of American football, then you've probably seen more uh, uh, campaign ads and advocacy ads and attack ads, one right after the other, and one comes up and says this person's a liar, and then that person's ad comes up and says the other one's a liar, and it's probably exhausting. And you just want to get back to where you can have a standard goofy beer commercial during your American football game. The World Series game, for games 1 and 2, Friday and Saturday, we're just saturated with campaign ads. They're online. Every time you go to YouTube, there's ads. It's just, and that is the system that we've created, unfortunately. And I do say unfortunately, and unfortunately might seem a bit contradictory to the fact that I'm begging you all so much to be engaged, but it speaks to the fact that our campaign system, not just our campaign finance system, but our campaign system needs an overhaul. And I know I've talked about it on the program before because I can see it coming. This election cycle is going to end, for the most part. It'll turn to the courts after November 5th. Vice chair of the Republican National Committee, the former political party known as Republicans, which is now an extension of the Trump Corporation, Laura Trump. I defy many of you without Googling it to tell me who the head of the Republican National Committee is, who the actual chair of the party is. I wouldn't know without Googling it right now. But I do know the vice chair is Laura Trump. She is the wife of Eric Trump, which simply proves there is someone for everyone on this planet. She put out this week, the RNC has already begun lawsuits complaining of election fraud, voting irregularities, and to nullify votes and nullify voting laws and they've done this and this is the good part. This is the part where I talk about civil engagement and teaching civics in schools. The RNC has filed these lawsuits in 81 states. Now, the last I was aware, The most we could probably put up would be 56 states and territories. The RNC has somehow managed to file lawsuits in more than 30 other jurisdictions that are currently not American. Pretty interesting. But my point is that we're not done. We won't really be done, by midnight on November 5th or even 1 in the morning. We just won't be. But we will be. A lot of it'll be done, and we'll have gotten through it. And it is exhausting. It's tiring, and I wish I wasn't so tired of it. I have been involved in politics in one way or another since I was in kindergarten, because I used to sit with my dad and watch the evening news. He was a Walter Cronkite guy. He watched the local news at 6, the national news at 7, every night, religiously. Figuratively religiously. I mean steadily, like always, like he didn't miss it. We got subscription to the local newspaper, which he read cover to cover every day. Whatever he did not finish that evening, he would work on the next morning. He took the newspaper to work with him on occasion. And it was my father that told me that it just is not difficult to be civically engaged and to understand what the hell is going on in your world and to be part of it. And I've told the story on this program before that I ran for my very first office when I was 5 years old. I ran to be the student council representative of my kindergarten homeroom, and lost. But I have always been involved in politics, but I cannot remember a time where I have been so exhausted by the process. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not terribly proud of myself for feeling that way. This is the process. But at the same time, it would be nice if the process was better, if it was more enjoyable, if it was more fair, if it was more issues based, more focused on actual policy rather than she's dumb, I don't like her suit, I don't like her hair. Or, to be perfectly fair, he's dumb. He's a fascist. He's a would-be totalitarian. He's a would-be dictator. Let's talk about it tonight. Let's see what you're thinking. We will take the program as long as you are here and as long as you wish to talk. I am thrilled. I beg you, I implore you, I demand. No, I don't demand. I have no right to demand anything. But your comments and questions are not only welcome, I am deeply and personally encouraging you to send them. I want to know what you think. Let me know where you are in this election cycle. Have you voted? Did you vote by mail? Did you early vote? Are you going to the polls in person? And if you're not comfortable sharing it, then don't. That's fine too. I perfectly understand. But we're asking as a part of the discussion. What is, in all intent and purposes, 1 week out, where are you in this process? Are you sick of it? Are you still learning? Are you somehow undecided still? We would like to know anything that you are thinking about this cycle. Please, if you are willing, share it with us. You can call. You can put it in the comments. Whatever works for you. But you are welcome here. We're thrilled that you're here. Look at me. I did an opening to the program and didn't do any of the business end. I did play the entire theme song, though, so we'll see if we get any pushback from that. Probably about time that I reset the program and tell you what the heck you're watching and listening to. Well, that would be Kennedy Effect Live for the 27th of October, 2024. You are watching us now, or can watch us live on the Faced. Did I just say that? Let me try that again, because that was really terrible. The Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, of Our Revolution, Pennsylvania, the TCP Media Group, and of course my own Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, and of course our home group Facebook page for all things surrounding the program. That other side of information. We're also on the Facebook page of Hot101.net. I'll get to more of that in just a second. So thank you. There are plenty of places to take us in, to be a part of to be a part of the program, to take the program in, and we hope that you will continue to do so. We're appreciative that you are here. Our Sunday program, of course, our longest program of the week, and we are scheduled to be with you until 9. We'll see if that actually comes across. The audio of the program, of course, blasting around the globe via 2 global internet radio stations. One, of course, one of the very beginners, one of the creators, one of the cornerstones, keystones, foundational blocks, if you will, of global internet radio. That is, of course, Hot101.net. Our Sunday program continues to have a home here on Hot101.net, for which we are eternally grateful. If you do not know how to listen to Hot101.net, then I'm going to tell you yet again, and you haven't been listening to me, and you should have, but I will tell you yet again, Hot101.net, our name is our web address. You can use and listen through the main website. Again, it is Hot, H-O-T, 101.net. And 101 is kind of more the name, it's 101 if you're typing it. Hot101.net. But you don't need the main website to listen. You can also listen through our apps. We have an Apple app in the Apple App Store for Apple devices. We have an Android app in the Google Play Store for Android devices. And if you should happen to have a device that is neither Android or Apple, you can use the TuneIn Radio app, TUNE-IN. TuneIn Radio app. I'm pretty sure there's a hyphen in there. Go up to the search bar, type in Hot101.net, and you are listening to us right away. You don't need to pay anything. You don't need to create a login. You don't need to fingerprints, driver's license. We don't need any of that. You can listen to us very, very simply through Hot101.net. And I want to say thank you to everybody at Hot101.net, to the family at Hot101.net, because even though this program continues to expand and we add new places to share it, they have never been jealous. They've never complained. They've never nothing. There is plenty of room in a person's week, the number of hours a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, plenty of time to listen to both stations, and we hope that you will. In addition to being on one of the oldest and foundational blocks of global internet radio, we are also on the newest, GCPR.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live, GCPR.live, a station that I am humbled enough to be a co-owner, co-partner with Thomas as part of GCPR. If you don't know how to listen to GCPR, that's a little different. Just type in what I just said, and the link is in the comments section on all the places where we are streaming the video live. GCPR.live. The letter G, letter C, letter P, letter R, .live. That will take you to the main website. You can find all the different places that you can listen to us. You can listen to us right there on the website as well, GCPR.live. We are scheduled to be here with you until 9. I will do my best to fulfill my obligations and my role to be here until 9. I do have a migraine already, and my neck is already bothering me. For those of you who have been kind enough to check in on me, and several of you have, which is humbling. It's very, very, very humbling because I'm just not that important. We missed you on Thursday because I just wasn't well. I was very lightheaded, very short of breath. I think I was struggling with my blood sugar the entire day. I'm not diabetic, but I will be. It runs in the family something. It runs on both sides of the family and runs deep on both sides of the family, so I will be at some point. And I think that this last surgery has done something to alter my kind of body chemistry that this is now becoming a thing. I almost did not come up here again tonight. George was kind enough to text me and say, we doing this tonight or not? It's kind of like having a very, very personal concierge service that George is like, hey, wake up, time to get to work here. And but I did come up. I do already have a headache, so I don't know how long this is going to go. It's interesting. I never try to share all of my health with you for pity or sympathy or anything like that, other than to just try to be honest. This is an exceptionally honest program, I believe. We don't lie to you. We don't kiss your fannies when it's convenient. When we disagree with you, we tell you. When we agree with you, we tell you. Sometimes we're boring that way, I guess. I will always remember April saying that, more people don't listen to you because you're boring, because you don't lie, because you don't scream, you don't swear, all that stuff. So I only ever share that with you because I'm very much like you. I am working poor. Maybe if I'm lucky, lower middle class, but I kind of doubt it. I think even between the two of us, between Kristen and I, the two incomes that we do have in the house, I think between the two, if we even put that all together, I think we might be considered lower middle class. But when the money comes in and then you pay the bills out, I would call it more working poor. Very early on in my life, I was a very, very sickly child. Very sickly. I was skinny.
I had a question.
No. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for me. No.
3.4. No. Please share as many questions as you want. We're supposed to fill 3 hours. Share as many questions as you want. George Dare.
All right. So since Lara Trump has added another 31 states to the United States,
right?
And
even if you give her the benefit of the doubt for the 6 territories, she still added 25, which is awesome. We should also make you that at 81 states times 2, there should be 162 senators. I hope some of them are Democratic. I guess the Senate chamber is going to get a little crowded.
Does Simon and Chuck, do they have to change the name of their program to 81 payer states, or is it just 2?
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
81. I think
no, it's still one. What they're advocating for is single payer, so there's still only one payer.
Okay.
I guess the exciting part of that now is that there are 30 new states to contribute to such a thing. I mean, Social Security be solvent now with the populations of 30 new states contributing to it.
But Pastor Best actually summed it up in the GCPR chat. I said, wait, there's 81 states. He said, well, it's also the mental states as well. And I said, there you go. Thank you very much for explaining that to me. So, shout out to, to Pastor Matthew Best.
Or I would say lack of mental states. You want to look at it that way. Yeah, lack of mental states, lack of mental stability. Or Yeah, I mean, once you add the various multiple personalities and so on, yeah, you might be at 30
Oh, I forgot multiple personalities.
states.
There you go.
Yeah, you might be at 31 states.
And yeah, okay.
But it is an excellent illustration as to what is to come. I told you on our weeknight program that I completely, that I believe very, very thoroughly that Vice President Harris is going to win the popular vote in this election. And I suspect that she's going to do it by a record number for the various Trump candidacies. Remember, Hillary Clinton beat Trump by, I believe it was 6 million votes in the straight up popular vote. Biden by 8 million. I believe Harris could beat him by 10 to 12 million. But the 2020 presidential election was decided by about roughly 120,000 votes across 7 states. And that's exactly where we are now. Laura Trump's statement, if you want to call it that, it's sort of a statement. It's kind of a stream of consciousness all at the same, or a stream of unconsciousness all at the same time, is very telling, and it should scare you to an extent, because Republicans have already decided unless they win, and you've heard this meme before, I don't think it's terribly new. Unless they win, it's rigged. If they win, then that's okay. Then it's somehow not rigged. And suing in 81 states, I couldn't. Once I get past the 50 states and the 6 territories, I don't know where you're going to get the other 25. I don't know where you're getting the other 25, but okay, fair enough. This is the plan. I was a pundit, Morning Joe, earlier in the week, writing about, I believe it was the gentleman who wrote the article for The Atlantic talking about, no, it was Michael Schmidt of the New York Times, or Washington Post, it's one of the two, talking about the ever increasing voices, former Trump regime officials who are not just warning us that Trump is unfit for office, but telling you flat out that the man, they've begun to use the word fascist here almost flippantly, almost as a castaway, throwaway line. And Trump meets every definition of the definition. Remember, fascism itself was created, if you will. And there's elements of it, of course, that go all the way back to the Roman Empire. But there are the modern definition of it comes to us from Mussolini himself. That fascism was the merger of corporate and state interests. It is the unbridled use of governmental power to further corporate aims. And what Mussolini did when he took power, when he consolidated and fully took power in Italy, was to not dissolve the parliament, because even he thought that would have been a bridge too far with the Italian people. But he replaced all the members of parliament. He kept the parliamentary districts, took either the richest person and or largest business owner, and of course sometimes that's the same person, from each of the parliamentary districts and made them the parliament. So when you have nothing but corporate ownership sitting in your parliament, who do you think they're there to represent? And so they used the power of the Italian national government to further their own aims, their own pockets, line their own pockets, their own bank accounts, and so on and so on and so on. And of course, Mussolini became a dictator that way. There was no dissent. There were no further elections. We only need, as a people, as a population, to look back at these periods in history. The fall of the Roman Empire, or the turning of the tide of the Roman Empire, probably beginning from when it split to the eastern and western halves, all the way leading through to the change from when the Roman Empire was no longer, as Randall mentioned during the week, that change when the Roman Empire became empire and no longer was it the Roman Republic. We can look back to, in more modern times, the Ottoman Empire, very similar. The going back to, 3 stages of German development as it got ever increasingly fascist each time, from the Prussian Wars through World War I to World War II. What happened to Italy in the 20s, what happened to Germany in the 30s. We've seen this before. To an extent, the modern Russian Federation is a fascist state. They have a dictator who has made a very small handful of corporations and people around him incalculable how wealthy he's made them. And he rules by dictatorship. And geez, when they do have an election, there's no one else is allowed to be on the ballot. The Russian courts that he created, that he staffed, the judges he chose personally, will just take every other candidate and rule them as invalid, so that he's the only person on the ballot. And gee, what a shocker, he gets 80+% of the vote. The real story from Russian elections is that he somehow only got 80% of the vote with the person with being the only name on the ballot. It means 20+% of the people still they either didn't vote or didn't vote for him. But we've seen this. And when Laura Trump tells you that they filed 81 court cases already, you think they're in front of judges appointed by Joe Biden? Or Bill Clinton? Or Barack Obama? Or hell, there's still judges in the system appointed by Ronald Reagan. Or do you think all of these have been filed in front of Trump judges? When Republicans protest election results in what I expect will be hundreds of counties across the country, do you think they'll do that in counties like Allegheny here in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia County, Kings County in New York City, which is actually Brooklyn, by the way? Do you think they'll do it in, I forget technically what county Chicago is. Chicago, I think, is actually its own county. It's not Chicago County, though. It has another name. Think they'll do that there? Or do you think they'll do it in red counties and in largely black cities? There's a reason why he appointed over 300 judges in the 4 years he was in office. And the only thing that we've done to counter that is Biden did more. My point is that we're not going to, this isn't going to be done. And I think it's easy to be tired of it. And I think it's easy to be tired by it. I think it's easy to be worn down by it. But we have to keep going. We have to try to hang in there. We're almost there. Almost there. We're about a week away. You know, the ads can stop after that at least. Then you're going to hear about the court cases. And I hope you can hang in. I hope we can get there. I've done this my whole life. And God, on some very deep, visceral level that even I can't quite wrap my head around, I do love politics. I love the public aspect of it. I love talking to people. I love making speeches. I love public gatherings. I love policy. I love the art of explaining your position in debate settings and in public speaking settings and defending your position and crafting policy to solve problems. But even I am exhausted from this. And I really kind of look forward to the end of it. But we got to just hang in there for one more week. And then I think we'll be okay. Again, let me please ask all of you out there, if you are willing, drop it in the comment. Give us a call, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Let us know how your campaign experience has been. Are you somebody who canvasses and texts and does postcards? Or do you not do any of that? And you're just sick of all the TV ads. Have you voted yet? How have you voted? I don't mean who have you voted for. That's none of my business. How have you voted if you have? Did you vote early? Did you vote by mail? Did you vote by absentee? Are you planning to go on election day itself and go to the polls, which is what I plan to do if I can't get to the courthouse and vote on demand in person, which I don't think I'm going to do because I don't think they're open enough hours for me to do that. But anything that you would be willing to share, we'd love to hear about your experiences so far this campaign season. Anything that you're willing to share. Phone line is open. We'll take you as long as we can. I'm already in a good amount of discomfort here in my neck and my shoulders, and I have a migraine. Even though I took something for it, it just hasn't seemed to have worked yet. It's right here, just like it always is. Interesting thing about when I get these migraine headaches, it doesn't matter where they start. They can sometimes start from my neck, which is mostly metal. I've been operated on twice. It can start in my right temple, start across my forehead. They will always eventually end up right behind my left eye, which is right where this one is, and it is getting worse by the second. But we want to hear from you. We'll hang in as late as we can or as long as we can, and we hope that you enjoy the program. We hope that you continue to be part of the program. We hope that you will go online, look up hot101.net, and look up GCPR Live and be part of both stations. There's a lot of hours in the week. Following us, by the way, tonight, this very night, on many of the same video platforms that we are on right now, as well as GCPR.live, The Villain's View follows us immediately from, well, I should say immediately. They follow us from 9 p.m. because I might not get to 9 p.m., but they follow us from 9 p.m. And then, of course, on the video streaming platforms where you are seeing me now, you will see their pre-show. They kind of log on early, get themselves together, make sure everything's working. That pre-show usually starts about 8. Could be as early as 8:35, 8:40, 8:45. They hit the button live and they're off and running from 9 p.m. That comes up following us on GCPR Live. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Thomas returns in the morning from 8. Following us on hot101.net, the music returns. Maybe that's exactly what you need after some heavy politics. You need a little music. But either way, we got you covered. The talk continues on GCPR following us. The music continues on Hot 101. Let's get to some of the big stories floating around that I was able to kind of peek in on today that I thought might be interesting. Um, I this is an analysis type story from the CBC, somewhere I haven't really checked out in a while, and that I haven't really read for. I haven't read from to you, I think, in quite a long time, but I found it interesting, so I thought I would share this article, or at least some of it. Of course, we can't read the entire thing. I actually think it might be illegal for us to read the whole thing, but I point you to it, and I make sure that we credit the people who wrote it, we credit the sourcing, and that is CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company, CBC News. This is from Nick Purdon and Leonardo Paella, Palleja. I'm thinking paella, almost like the dish, but I could be butchering names. I do it all too often. A 63-year-old grandmother in northern Michigan might not be what you picture when you think of a great defender of democracy, but the Antrim County Clerk says she's determined to protect and restore faith in the electoral system. Cheryl Guy has worked for the municipality for 45 years. Quote, I graduated from high school on a Thursday, had my interview on a Friday, and I started on Monday, she said in a recent interview, and I've been here ever since. These days, she's pushing back against election deniers. Quote, Donald Trump and his people used Antrim County as an example that the election had been stolen, she said defiantly. I can't let that happen in my county. Antrim County, a sparsely populated, little-known part of northern Michigan, became pivotal in the rise of election denial in the U.S. after a mistake made on Election Day in 2020. The Michigan Department of State has reviewed what happened and concluded that human error, such as not properly preparing ballot scanners or the ballots themselves, skewed initial voting results in the county of 23,000 people. Those preliminary results had U.S. President Joe Biden leading Trump by thousands of votes, even though the county had historically been a Republican stronghold. The morning after the election, Guy remembers being in the drive-thru at her local McDonald's when she got a message on her phone and learned of the mistake. She went right back to work until she and her team figured out the problem. There was an honest mistake, and we owned it, and we fixed it, she said. Once the ballots had been properly counted, the county went Republican by almost 4,000 votes. But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it became the spark Donald Trump used to suggest that there had been systematic election fraud across the country. He cited what happened in Antrim County in his speech on January 6th, 2021. Before the riots in Washington and the attack on the Capitol. It was horrifying, Guy said, when she saw Trump's speech on TV. After that, her life changed. Despite being a lifelong Republican who had voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020, I found herself the target of Trump supporters. Quote, I endured harassment, threats, said Guy, who got emails and phone calls accusing her of rigging the election. One of the messages left was that I deserved to be put in front of a firing squad. This is going to happen, I believe, an awful lot after November 5th. We already know that any person in government, from dog catcher to the U.S. Senate, to the current president, if you don't agree with Trump, you're a target. You are somehow less than human You are anti-American. You are, according to Trump, and Vance has never denied this either, worthy of being put in work camps, detention camps, and yes, Trump has even used the term concentration camp. Here's a woman who's telling you, we screwed up. We found our error, we recounted, and we got the right count out there, and Trump won the county. But that wasn't enough. He had to make a national scene out of it to try to convince you, all of you out there, that something shady was going. And what was the number of lawsuits that took place in 2020? I think it was 60 something, 74, something like that, lawsuits. Only one of which did they win, which happened to be right here in Pennsylvania. I am concerned that as we wait for the election results to be certified, validated, until we have a declared winner for the presidency following November 5th, this is all you're going to hear. And the irony of it is that while we wait, you will hear about all these conspiracy theories. You will see these so-called self-appointed militia people, probably in full battle gear, going to the places where votes are counted, trying to scare the shit out of the people inside. And then if by the time we get to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they declare Trump the winner, then all of a sudden everything's fine. Oh, yeah, told you. That's because we scared them. Told you everything was fine. But in my estimation, and still my belief, albeit a weaker belief than it was a couple weeks ago, Vice President Harris wins this election, I don't know that we'll see another January 6th. I think we could see a bunch of mini January 6s. I think you could see statewide violence across various states, and not just the seven battleground states. I don't think you're going to see another march on the Capitol. I don't. But I think you could see smaller marches and violence in many states. Because dictators don't win elections fair and square. They can't. And they know they can't. Dictators generally don't run on policy because they don't have it. How much policy is Trump running? They run by trying to convince you everything sucks. Trump called the United States a garbage can over the weekend. Do you really think you live in a garbage can? There's a lot of problems in this nation. A lot. None of which cannot be solved by the repeal of Citizens United, by the way. And reform, and a real top to bottom reform of our electoral system in this country. And I don't mean the electoral college, I mean the electoral system, the campaign system. Limiting money, limiting the time that we can campaign, restoring free airtime, restoring the fairness doctrine. All of these things can be solved. But none of that is going to happen in the next 8 days. And we're going to have to get through this one. So we stay tuned, I guess is all I can say. And again, I'd love to hear about any of your experiences. love to hear about any of your experiences so far in this campaign cycle. Have you voted? How did you vote? And I do not mean whom did you vote for. How did you vote? Have you had canvassers at your door? What are the conversations you're having? We're here for you. We'd like to hear whatever experiences you're willing to share. 267-227-9189. Here's another CBC article. This moves to foreign policy because I think it is something that the United States needs to pay attention to because it's happening here. It's happening here. Even Microsoft told you it's happening here. This is an article from the Associated Press. Georgia's president, Georgia, the nation, the former Soviet satellite republic, I guess, if you'd call it that. Salome Zhorbashvili, and I guarantee you I butchered the heck out of that, claimed on Sunday, today, the country was the victim of a Russian special operation as she stood alongside Georgia's opposition to say she did not recognize the results of the parliamentary election. She called on Georgians to come to the main street of the capital of Tbilisi on Monday at 7 p.m. local time to protest the result, which she said was a total falsification, total stealing of your votes. She spoke the day after an election that could decide Georgia's place in Europe. The country's Central Election Commission said on Sunday that the ruling party, the Georgian Dream Party, got 54.8% of Saturday's vote, with almost 100% of the ballots counted. European electoral observers said the election took place in a divisive environment marked by intimidation and instances of physical violence that undermined the outcome of the vote. The pre-election campaign in the South Caucasus nation, 3.7 million people, a former Soviet republic that borders Russia, was dominated by foreign policy and marked by a bitter fight for votes and allegations of a smear campaign. Initial figures suggested that turnout was the highest since the ruling party was first elected in 2012. Monitoring officials from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe said on Sunday they had multiple concerns about the conduct of the election, including vote buying, double voting, physical violence, and intimidation. Georgian Dream used hostile rhetoric and promoted Russian disinformation and conspiracy theories ahead of the election in an attempt to undermine and manipulate the vote, according to Antonio Lopez Isturiz White of the Commission, the European Commission on the election. Georgian electoral observers who stationed thousands of monitors across the country reported multiple violations and said the results do not correspond with the will of the Georgian people. So we have an election that just took place this past weekend, or this current weekend, I guess if you want to look at it that way, that can show us what we could be in for here. Intimidation, lies, spreading money around. We have so much we could learn. And I hope that we're smart enough to, learn. The continuing question that really, really strikes me about this campaign cycle, and it is one that I do not believe that enough people have answered, or to be honest with you, have even tried to answer. And it goes back to a phone call into the program earlier in the week, asking me, why do you get so upset about this? Why are you so bothered by Trump? Why are you so bothered by Musk? Why are you so bothered? And generally speaking, you don't answer a question with a question. It's a bit of a weak debate response. In fact, it's a very weak debate response. But my question back was, why the hell aren't you bothered? You're so curious about why I'm bothered. Why aren't you? I think the majority of people that take in the program, live or through the recorded version, I think they are upset. I think they are bothered. Are you bothered enough to stop it? It's not too late. There's a week left. There are plenty, a third of the Senate is up. The entire U.S. House of Representatives, legislatures across the country, state row offices, all of that is there. There are more campaigns than you can count. They're all still looking for money, and they're all still looking for volunteers. You can text, make phone calls, write postcards. You can help people vote. Doesn't mean you can vote for them, but if they're confused about their mail-in ballot, they have questions about it, they can't understand how it's supposed to function, there are places to help with that. There are places to go to the polls and make sure that none of that funny stuff is that there is no, that you don't have these self-appointed militia people hanging out outside polling places. What are we willing to do in this last week to make sure that this is not our last election? See, I think sometimes you can tell when Trump himself thinks he might have stepped over the line. Because he'll say something, the blowback will be fierce. Then he backs off of it, and he just very conveniently never says it again. Sometimes he'll defend what he says and double down on it, but then abandons it and never says it again. One of those things was, you just need to vote by November 5th, and you'll never have to vote again. Notice he hasn't said that again. It's not a normal part of his stump speech on the road. He means it. He means it. He absolutely means it. But notice he doesn't say it anymore. Sometimes I've told you before, he's not a dumb man. He's stupid, and sometimes willfully stupid. But he's not dumb. He knows. He knew the pushback he got on that. He knew it. He knew he couldn't withstand it. He knew he couldn't say it again. So he didn't. But you knew he believed it. And believes it still. And remember this too. Trump is 78 plus years old. He is morbidly obese. He eats, reportedly, and actually by his own admission, eats almost nothing other than McDonald's. Even if he does come out of this election with another term, he'll never see the full of it. J.D. Vance is in his 42, I think. I think he's 42. We know he's at least 35 because he's a U.S. Senator. I believe he's 42. Very much like a judge, like a federal judge. Take those two things and combine them. Trump saying, just vote for me on the 5th, you'll never have to vote again. And the fact that Mr. Vance is only 42 years old. There's your dictatorship. And they're telling you that. I know there are Republicans that listen to this program. I know there are. I have to wonder. I just have to wonder. When is enough enough? When does it bother you? When does it finally reach that point? When did you become the party of fascism? When did you become the 1920s Italian black shirts? And when did you become okay with it? 7:02 Eastern Time. You are listening and watching Kennedy Effect live for the 27th of October, 2024. 8 days left until the end of voting in the 2024 United States election cycle. A very special hello to anyone and all of you who may be watching and listening to the program, be it live or recorded, that happen to be outside of the United States. And we would be particularly very, very interested to know what you think of what you are seeing looking in from the outside on this U.S. election cycle. You can watch us right now live on the Facebook pages of, Ghost Claw Productions, the TCP Media Group, Our Revolution, Pennsylvania, and Hot101.net. We are also live on Facebook on my own personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, as well as our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, which we continue to invite you to visit and become a member of. You can contribute, you can post articles, talk to other like-minded people, argue with them if you don't agree with them. That works too. Our home group Facebook page is not only just politics. There are often articles there about animal welfare and advocacy, astronomy, history, archaeology, things that I find interesting that I think you might find interesting. We are live right now on our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information, which I forgot to share to GCPR YouTube. I just remembered that, George. We are live on our Twitch, which is Jeff R in the middle, Kennedy, and we are live on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. Hearty welcome to all of you, and to thank you for being here. I'm going to try to press on into this hour, but my head is beginning to absolutely roar. So I do not know how much longer that's going to continue. There are some other news stories that I wanted to get to. I will try to get to them. We'll try to keep you informed and involved. And I can tell you that if you want to, if you are so inclined as to want to extend the program, then please, your comments and questions are very, very, very necessary. They're very welcome, and I hope that you will please do so. And be a part of the program. And again, let me say, I would deeply appreciate and enjoy if you would be willing to share to our audience your experiences thus far in voting. How has it gone? What have you experienced? Have you had, George tells me he's 40. I thought he was 42. My goodness gracious. He's 40. Great. 2 more years he can live. He's going to outlive me. I'll tell you that. Evil often do. But yeah, we'd like to know what you think. We'd like to know how your experience has been thus far. How is it going? Are you enjoying the, have you enjoyed it? Are you sick of the ads? Mail-in voting was great. Mail-in voting was terrible. Whatever. I went early voting in person. The lines were so and so long. We'd love to know anything that you have to share with us that you're willing to share by giving us a call, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, or drop a chat, or drop a comment. Drop a chat. Jeez, what the hell am I talking about? George is laughing like, I don't even know what he's saying anymore. And George is doing one of those very slow reach overs to like a TV comically sort of slow, like, I'm gonna just touch this camera and get out of here. Yeah, drop a comment in the chat if you're willing to share. Let us know how this election cycle has been for you. Have you gotten a lot of phone calls? Have you gotten a lot of texts? Are you sick of it? Are you engaged in it? Anything that you might be willing to share that might push the conversation along, we are welcome to hear it, and you are welcome here. Turning to the Associated Press, Trump's Madison Square Garden event turns into a rally with crude and racist insults. What a shocker. That sounds very 1920s Italy to me. One of my favorite pictures. I actually saved it in my photos, although because my photos are completely and 100% not organized, I would be hard-pressed to find it. It's a picture of a German gentleman with just a piece of poster board. And it's an actual real piece of poster board that he himself drew. It's not one of these blank things that people will, scroll a meme on to make it look like it's real. And it simply says, I'm German. And we've seen this before. Dateline New York. Article was written by Jill Colvin and Michelle Price. And wow, brave ladies for being at this event normally. And that's not an exaggeration. Normally, female reporters, be they TV, radio, or print, are threatened with sexual violence on a very regular basis at Trump rallies. If you don't believe me, go back and you can DuckDuckGo, search engine of your choice. Katie Tur of MSNBC and NBC was the NBC day-to-day campaign reporter following the Trump campaign in 2016. And at one rally, Trump pointed her out, called her a liar, called her fake press, fake news. She began receiving death threats and rape threats. She was stalked. She was followed. It's all out there. I'm not creating any of this. I'm not making any of it up. And eventually they had to pull her off the campaign for her own safety. And she no longer does any real travel reporting. She's basically in the studio as an anchor now at this point. She's very good at it, by the way. And she remains a very tough interview. If you're lying, she's calling you out on it. But they had to pull her from the road for her own safety. So the fact that these two ladies reported on this for the Associated Press for us, God bless them, because probably wasn't fun. And probably wasn't without, unless, they were able to do it without people knowing who they were. They went as, perhaps they went to the rally as rally attendees and not just with a press badge on or something. But anyway, Jill Colvin, Michelle Price of the Associated Press. Dateline New York, Donald Trump hosted a rally featuring crude and racist insults at New York's Madison Square Garden on Sunday, turning what his campaign had advertised as the event where he would deliver his closing message in the campaign's final days to an illustration of what turns off his critics. This is his final argument. This is his argument. That immigrants are responsible for everything that's wrong in your life, and that Democrats are, and that he's persecuted, and he's being judged, and he's being chased in the courts. Criminals generally are. One of the campaign lines Vice President Harris has used that is 100% correct, and very effective and very clever, is that the Harris campaign talks about us. us, the United States, its population, our society, our nation. Trump talks about Trump. Somehow you're responsible for the fact that he's a criminal. And he needs your defense. And they're coming after him. And somehow that means that they're coming after you. Oh, I don't know. Did you create a charity in New York State, collect tens of millions of dollars, and then stick it all in your pocket, and then have to go to court after being sued by the Attorney General of New York State and having a judge say you're guilty and you can never run a charity in this state again? Did all that happen to you all? To the 80 million people estimated that will vote for him? That happened to you too? You're not Trump. We may not agree on issues and policy, but you're law-abiding people. He's a criminal. Are you all billionaires? No, of course you're not. So how are you like him? How can you feel his pain? And isn't it a leader's responsibility to feel your pain? Not to bitch at you about theirs. Several speakers crudely insulted Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, vying to become the first woman and black woman to win the presidency. And the stand-up comedian made lewd and racist comments about Latinos, Jews, and black folk, all key constituencies in the election just 9 days away. If you really think about it, because this election, unfortunately, is not about foreign policy or the economy or the environment or education, because it is about the continuation of the United States as we know it, even with all of its flaws. Because this is actually an election and a discussion about the existence of the United States, I have to say, and I have resisted this earlier, but I think I have finally bought into it. If you are part of those quote-unquote key constituency groups, Latinos, Jews, black folk, I would also include, obviously, women. If you are a woman, regardless of age, skin color, marital status, sexual identification, you might be lesbian, you might be straight. If you are Latino, if you are Jewish, if you are black, I genuinely do not understand how in any good conscience you can vote for this man. Because none of you can tell me, well, I like his ideas on taxes. First off, what ideas on taxes has he told you? He told billionaires behind closed doors, I'm going to give you tax cuts. And that's all he really accomplished in his first term, were tax cuts. You can't like his policies on education. Project 2025 calls for closing the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, and returning all of public education to you get it if you can afford it status. The way it was at the founding of this country, actually, before the government took upon itself to create an educational system. You can't like Trump's ideas about the environment because he doesn't have any. Project 2025, the manifesto given him what he's being paid to implement, and what J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to, and what he will be paid to implement, calls for the end of all environmental regulations and shuttering the Environmental Protection Agency. Mr. Trump thinks that any Jew that votes for Kamala Harris is somehow some sort of traitor, not just to themselves, but to their religion and Israel. He happens to tell blacks to be afraid of Latinos and Latinos to be afraid of blacks, and thinks that you're both lazy and shouldn't be in this country. You can't tell me that you're voting for him for policy, because there isn't any. Certainly can't be for his masculinity. And if that's all you got, it's a pretty damn shallow vote. I think it's Donna mentioned in the chat. I think it's Donna because I don't happen to be in that screen. So I can't tell. I get at least 10 texts a day, maybe 3 to 4 calls a week. I get about the same. I get about a dozen text messages a day. Nearly all of them, but not all of them. Nearly all of them are from the Harris campaign. I can't say I've gotten phone calls. My phone, happened to be an Apple guy, iPhone, is pretty good at detecting or labeling certain phone numbers as possible scams. They could very well be campaign phone calls. I honestly don't know, to be completely fair about it. But the text messages are absolutely staggering. They're just, oh my God, they just won't stop. And, you know, for as advanced as campaigning has become in this country, the introduction of micro-targeting by the Obama campaigns, like down to literally individual voters, blocks within cities, the use of social media. I'd like to think that I do my own part here. And the fact that they waste so much money on me, texting me to try to convince me to do something that if they just watched 5 seconds of this program for the last 5.5 years, they know bloody well what I'm going to do. What else do I want to... get to? There's a couple other... Dateline New York. Headline: Biden calls out Musk over a published report that the Tesla CEO once worked in the U.S. illegally. Don't forget about how good at deflection Republicans are. When they say Democrats are trying to take your freedom, you know that it's Republicans that are trying to do it. When they say that Democrats want to raise your taxes, know then that it is Republicans that want to do it. When they say that you're going to be less safe, they know, oh yeah, it isn't on. Ooh. Well, Randall, you're 100% right. And if you're going to call, I'd do it quick because my head is literally going to explode. Dateline New York. President Joe Biden slammed Elon Musk for hypocrisy on immigration after a published report the Tesla CEO. I have to go here to answer. Hang on 1 second. I lost the article. Hold on. President Joe Biden slammed Elon Musk for hypocrisy on immigration after a published report that the Tesla CEO once worked illegally in the United States. South African-born Musk denies the allegation. Quote, the wealthiest man in the world turned out to be an illegal worker here. I'm serious. He was supposed to be in school when he came on a student visa. He wasn't in school. He was violating the law. And he's talking about all these quote-unquote illegals coming our way. Biden said while campaigning on Saturday, yesterday, in a union hall in Pittsburgh. Washington Post reported that Musk worked illegally in the country while on a student visa. The newspaper, citing company documents, former business associates, and court documents, said Musk arrived in Palo Alto, California in 1995 for a graduate program at Stanford University, but never enrolled in courses, working instead on his startup. Nothing is more hypocritical than Republicans. Randall, go ahead. The floor is yours until I can't sit here anymore.
Well, it's not Randall. It's,
Oh, hey, Mike.
Mike.
I don't memorize everybody's
And,
phone number, so welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Floor is yours.
Well, I feel like I owe you an apology, although I don't know exactly what I did wrong, other than say that I just kind of was tired of hearing the old Kennedy campaign
You
song.
never owe me an apology for anything. My opinion isn't that damn important. So your opinions are yours. They are strong. They are valid. They are welcome. It's American to have them. They're like eyeballs. Everybody's got a few. So what else can we do? What can we talk about? How has your campaigning experience been so far? Have you seen canvassers? Are you drowning in literature? Are you drowning in text messages? Have you voted yet? If you did, and only if you're willing to say, because it's not my business, I'm just asking, may I ask how you voted, not for whom, but how. Did you do by mail? Are you planning to go on November 5th? If you're willing to share, I'd be very curious to see how your election experience has been so far here in 2024.
Well, I think I stated way back that Biden should drop out and somebody else should take over.
I think that you did.
And I was glad that it was Harris. I was kind of disappointed that she didn't pick John Kelly to be her running mate, senator from Arizona, because I thought he would have been a little less folksy and kind of a little less inept, a little more professional than Waltz has been. But apparently that's reaching a lot of people. But I had more confidence in somebody like Kelly, or nobody will ever pry Newsom out of the governorship of California. I mean, that guy's got it made in the shade. I still plan to vote for Harris. There is no early voting in the state of Mississippi. In fact, there's been some irregularities going on. It's probably going to wind up in the courts about some of the shenanigans that our Republican state government is doing. I don't know if occasionally our Governor Tater makes the news. I can't remember what his first name is. His name is Tate, the way I call him Tater, because he looks like a big boiled tater. And he has the IQ of one, too.
Isn't it a bit, Mike, isn't it a bit ironic that there should be, I want to frame this question the right way, and my words are escaping here for a moment. My apologies to you, but isn't it, I guess ironic, really, ironic's probably the right word. Isn't it a bit ironic and or possibly unnecessary that Republicans should have to engage in any sort of electoral shenanigans in a state like Mississippi where they're gonna freaking win everything anyway? I mean, I don't think either campaign has even campaigned in Mississippi because we know it's going Republican. Isn't it almost laughable? Isn't it kind of a waste of effort, so to speak? I mean, what the?
Well, here's the thing, though. when these, and it's down to the wire because just of the way the electoral college nonsense works out, they're only campaigning in those supposedly swing states. And I can't figure out who. I was listening to Bill Maher one night, and he was, I think it was in his overtime thing, he was saying, when people say they're undecided, they're really telling you that they're libertarian nut jobs. And that's the people that won't be persuaded. They would probably go for Trump. But when Obama ran for re-election here in 2012, he got over 1/3 of votes for the presidency. So Mississippi is not one of those places. It's completely a lost cause, especially when it comes to the total vote count, where they could make a dent. But you ask anybody that's not one of these battleground states how they feel. I get pissed off every year, every election cycle, when someplace like New Hampshire and all those little tiny states wind up deciding the election, and candidates are dropping out like flies before they even get to Iowa. Like, why should Iowa decide who's running for president? It's a name, but that's the nature of the stupid system we have.
Also, why the Democrats did change the schedule this time and pushed South Carolina further up into in the schedule. Yeah, I hear you. I've always thought about that since I was a kid. Why, Iowa and New Hampshire, while they are lovely states, are not representative generally of the U.S. as a whole. They are very representative of Iowa. Iowa is very representative of the Midwest. New Hampshire is representative of rural New England, but they are not terribly representative of the American electorate as a whole. It's been part of what has skewed and twisted the American electoral system, and it's actually causing these perpetual campaigns because Iowa has already said that even if they had to move their caucuses into the previous year, that they will make sure that they are first. So that instead of having the Iowa caucuses, and they're usually in the first week of January of that election year, if they had to move them into the previous year, they'll do that just to make sure they're first. So, and it has helped breed and perpetuate this ever longer and longer, and again, eventual this perpetual election cycle. But you're right, for a population.
Look what happened with this election cycle. When did Biden actually drop out? Was it July or August?
It was July.
So if you just started the election on August 1st, there could be no campaigning starting to August 1st. Something more like the elections in the UK. So you just put in that cycle. Right.
Yeah, parliamentary elections in the United Kingdom are 6 weeks.
So that would solve a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's just like, has Trump really stopped campaigning for this year since he left the White House? And they locked the doors and abandoned the place. They just walked out in the snit, and nobody was there to welcome the Bidens when they walked up the driveway. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was kind of hilarious. They were knocking on the doors. So, it was chaos inside the White House because Trump had just effed off, right? And he's been running, and he's been doing those rallies. He comes to Mississippi and does rallies and fundraising here, and it's a big MAGA crowd. But I'll tell you what I don't see. I was out today in town running my errands. I went by a couple of hardware stores and places like that I drop in and talk to old friends who worked in the hardware business like I did for a while. And I don't see any Make America Great MAGA hats anywhere. I don't see any shirts. I don't see any of that stuff, which surprises me, especially this close on the election. But, I feel like you just were in a snit at me from last week because I did tell you why are you letting this bother you so much? You were infuriated with me. You were butthurt all the shows I watched last week. You played just like a little bit of the Kennedy jingle thing and talked about the new format. And I'm like, Jesus, how mad is he? I wasn't intending to make you this mad or anything. But, I'm here and I know I'm living in this altered reality. And so I've still got to live here, whether hopefully Harris wins or Trump wins. And I'm still, I don't know. I still think he's got a chance to pull it out, but it's hard to tell. And the mainstream media won't be hard on him. They won't push back. Joe Rogan pushed back on him the other night. When are you going to tell us about this healthcare plan? When are you going to tell us about this stuff? And Trump just weaved his way through that. And that was the first real pushback I've seen in a long time. From Joe Rogan, of all people. So, I don't know. I apologize.
Definitely,
it seems like I hurt your feelings, and I wasn't trying to do that. But
that definitely should be an alarm, I think, to many, many Americans on every side of the aisle, if you will, if you forgive me the phrase. But is that why does it take? I don't particularly fancy Mr. Rogan as any type of superior intellect, although
he's the dumbest guy on earth.
Although let me just be very plain, I'll say it straight out. If I had 1% of the people listening to his podcast, listening to mine, I'd be making a living at it. I mean, he's got tens of millions of. I believe it's still the most listened to podcast on the planet, if I'm not mistaken. And if it's not the top one, it's in the top 3, and has been for years. I don't know how a failed stand-up comic becomes such a wonderful podcast host. I don't know how that works, but hey, he's doing something right. He's doing something that I'm not doing, and God bless him for it. That's America. But there is something. I think you raise a really interesting point. I do think should be alarm to a lot of us that we have to go to Joe Rogan for accountability.
Well, he couldn't get anything out of him, and he did laugh at him when he started his weaving.
Right, but at least as you stated, at least he did push, and he asked the questions, and he did the follow-up questions, and you're not seeing that on Fox. Do you see him go to Fox or One America
you don't see it from
or
ABC, NBC?
No,
or
yeah,
any
you
of
don't.
those places.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, you see some of the things on Fox where they're trying to give him the answer inside the question. You don't really want to deport all these immigrants. Some of them you've even talked about deporting legal. You don't really want to do that, do you? And he goes, yeah, I do. Yup, gonna do it. Even though it's going to cost tens of billions.
He can't, because the only thing he got in his whole 4 years of presidency was the billionaire tax.
It was the tax cut.
And he did manage to stack the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade.
But here's the difference.
Undoing.
But here's the difference, in my opinion, Mike, why I think you might be wrong. I'm not saying you are. I think you might be. Here's the difference. Well, there's a couple, but I mean, generally they all revolve around the same point. You just spoke of the Supreme Court. This Supreme Court gave a sitting president, and according to the dissent decision written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, it is a singular decision that gives Trump alone immunity. Period. End of story. Immunity from anything that can be argued to be a quote-unquote presidential official action. It's illegal under the Constitution to use U.S. federal troops on U.S. soil. That's what the National Guard is for. So Trump deploys 3 armored tank divisions to the southern border, and begins firing on migrants on the Mexican side. All of that is unconstitutional and an undeclared declaration of war on Mexico. It's all unconstitutional. It's all illegal. Supreme Court gave him a pass for all of And that's where I think the real difference is. When you say he can't do that, he's not going to do that. He bloody well can. If he's so damn determined to do it, he can do it because he's completely criminally immune. I would argue he doesn't really want to do that because corporations like cheap labor. And they like cheap non-union labor even better. And they like immigrant labor with green cards that the corporations can then threaten those folks with that will get your green card removed. They like them a whole lot.
Well,
So I don't think he's going to do it either. But he can.
Had 4 years, right? Well, let me just address that point. We've had 4 years of the Biden Justice Department. Who could have gone after these? Right down the road,
I completely agree with you.
Merchandiser in my store. He's working at the chicken plant down in Heidelberg.
I completely
and he was
agree.
talking it up to me.
Yep, I completely agree. We stopped prosecuting employers of quote-unquote illegal immigrants.
Right.
You guessed it, Reagan.
You guessed it. Down there, and they round up the illegals, and whatever the fine is, apparently they can just pay the fine, and it's the cost of doing business.
It's Reagan that stopped the prosecution of employers of illegal immigrants because they were rich people. They were the people that donated and financed his campaigns. They were the ones that put money in his pocket. So they went after the people, the actual employees, the ones working, paying taxes. We went after them. We didn't go after the employers anymore. So you're right. And this Justice Department, this very weak and feckless Justice Department led by Merrick Garland, has not improved on any of that. And the Biden administration hasn't pushed them to do it and hasn't set out a policy to say that we should be going after, you want to go after illegal immigrants stealing jobs, and we're going to go after it wholeheartedly. We're going to go after both sides of it. Not just the people taking the jobs, the ones that are hiring them to do it. And it's something that very easily could have been done. And still could be.
But
you do it tonight if you wanted to.
Nobody wants to work in that chicken plant with on the chickens. My friend, who is 66 years old, is working down there. He's formerly a merchandiser at the Office Depot where I work, where he would come in for a third party and set up displays and doing all that stuff. And he's trying to convince me, because I haven't worked in a year. I had fuck you money in the bank, excuse my French, if I can say that. Sorry to drop the F-bomb, but, you know, I've been able to
try to skip it, but it happens. We're human. We'll survive. We don't make a habit of it, but it happens.
But I'm at the end of my rope applying to stuff, and I can't get hired any place. And the interviews I've got, they lowballed me. You know, there's an Academy Sports Store open. The guy wanted me to stand there and be a greeter for $11 an hour. I said, I was a manager. I handled, I was a key carrier, open and closed stores. I counted the deposits. I was there, you know, when the brakes guy came in, the whole 9 yards, having to sit there and deal with customers who were mad that the price label on the shelf was wrong because one of the kids didn't get to one of the 10,000 price changes we had every week. And so I'd have to go, sure, I'll give it to you. And they're, you know, compete for the sale price. And I scanned it and it rang up correctly. And they're still arguing with me. I said, I did correct it, man. It's all good. Sorry about that. And people are horrible. If you've worked in retail, I'll tell you. People are horrible. They would come up to me for years. And I heard so many white men, old white men, and they would, when Trump got elected, they started wearing the MAGA hats, and they would say, somebody ought to shoot that N-word Obama, right? And I'd go, would you say that a little louder in the microphone? I don't think the Secret Service heard you, right? And they get really mad at me. But that sentiment, they hate him. They hate Obama, they hate Harris, they hate Biden, they hate all those people the way that Ahab hated the layoff. If the troops were a cannon, it would shoot a cannonball at liberals. They don't understand why. And a lot of that, I hear it from, the people, the same people who would ask me if I was nice and waited on them. They would say to me, Michael, where is your church home? I go, well, I tried this once. I said, well, my people don't go to church. We go to temple. He's like, what does that mean? And I pretended. I said, well, I'm actually Jewish. And they would turn on a dime. Like, there was a look of horror on their face. They'd turn on a dime and walk away from it and never speak to me again. They'd see me, hi, how you doing today? Can I find something? They would just walk by me like I wasn't there. So a lot of that is also not just Trump crazy syndrome that those people have, Fox crazy syndrome. It's also religious, and that's what's going on right now. The Israelis launched an airstrike of some sort into Iran the other day, and I see nothing about it on the news. I'm going to Der Spiegel and BBC and trying to read stuff from overseas. What the hell's going on with Israel and Iran? Because that's going to turn into World War III, I think. It has the potential for it.
The Israelis
and those
launched.
people hate each other with every fiber of their being. And it's all over religion. And it's the same way here in America. The religious right has gone so super in on Trump that they believe he was sent by Jesus to save them from the most godless liberals. I'm actually an atheist. I'm a fundamentalist atheist, by the way. It's the same as regular atheists. Just want you to know I really mean it that I'm an atheist.
Nice. Clever. That's cheeky, actually.
I came by it honestly. I was raised by these people. I think my badge of honor is I got kicked out of Sunday school. My parents tried to make me go, and I remember Gene Bunyard, poor guy. I made him balder if that was possible because we started with us in junior high. We moved to a different Sunday school class. He started page 1 Genesis. Let there be light. And I raised my hand and I said, well, he doesn't make the heavens the firmament, where the sun is until day 4. So where's light coming from? And it went on from there. And these people they love Jesus Christ so much. And I'll ask them questions like, hey, do you like the 10 Commandments? And they'll go, yes. And I'll go, name any 5 in no particular order. I could never find among Southern Baptists anybody that can name more than 3 of the 10 Commandments. What book of the Bible are they in? Right? They're like, they don't know. It's a trick question. It's actually 3 places in the Bible. And they don't agree with one another. But that's the religious fervor they have. And when you understand they don't know what they believe, that's also the thing on Trump, It's why the guy from The Daily Show, Jordan Klepper, can go to one of those rallies, and the guy's wearing a shirt with Trump's mugshot on it. It says "Never Surrender," and he's. I mean, it's just so funny. He's going, but that picture is his mugshot when he did surrender to the authorities in Georgia, right? And the guy's going, "What? Trump never surrenders." But that's his mugshot. He surrendered for that mugshot, and the guy is just completely. There's nothing going on between his ears. He doesn't know that Trump ever got arrested. And it was illegal. And Trump's Jesus. And that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Your fellow American is profoundly dumb, at least half of them, because they're Trump's base. So I don't know what to tell you. I would like to just make it a funnier show, more fun. Like Ferguson used to do. He used to start his show every night, and he would come out and he'd say, "It's a great day for America, everybody." And that was during the Bush years. And it's great. They would just make fun of all this stuff, and we'd have a laugh about it. If Trump gets back in, it's going to be awful. The courts are going to be, overloaded. People are going to have to resist in the streets. There's going to be marches and rallies, and to block National Guardsmen trying to do all this stuff. But I think we could survive another one.
Project
I don't think he'll get away with it.
Project 2025 actually states that federal troops would be allowed to take the place of National Guard and such things. Also, that they would be allowed to go door to door and arrest protesters and arrest Democrats and arrest.
But he can't make that an executive order that would go around Congress.
Of course he can, because because the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity gives him that freedom, if you will. Freedom,
Well,
freedom being a
about to
twisted
see, but
freedom being a twisted word for it. Because again, remember what the decision says. It says if it is an official action of the presidency, he is immune from criminal indictment, criminal investigation. There is nothing that can be done, period. And then the Supreme Court very, very intentionally does not define what a presidential action is. It could be litigated in the courts for another 20 years. Trump will be dust by the time he would ever be, quote unquote, held to account for any
he's going to die
unconstitutional,
peacefully in his
illegal
bed in
answer.
Mar-a-Lago or something.
I think he's gonna, and I think he'll resign about halfway into the term if he's reelected, and then Vance will be president for life. So there's that. But that
It's going
said,
to be riots
this
in the
is
streets.
the this is the difference. And I think we're not putting enough weight on that difference. Trump understands how to use the office of the presidency infinitely better than when he got there. Let's remember that on election night in 2016, his staff did not even write a victory speech because they never intended to win. They never thought they would win. They just wanted to increase the brand and make everything that Trump sold worth more money, and that he would get more and more money after losing in speaking fees running around the country bitching. They never anticipated that he was going to win in the first place. What they did, they had to write a victory speech that night. Nicole Wallace has told the story probably 100 times, as I often tell recycle too many stories here on this show. But she's told the story 100 times that one of the Trump staffers called and said, "You really think we should write a victory speech?" She's like, "Yeah, you just got declared the winner. You probably might want to write a speech." They never intended to win. They never planned to win. There's questions about whether he even wanted to win. It's been very plain that Melania didn't want him to win. She didn't want him to get involved in the first place. That said, he was still in the office for 4 years. He understands how it works infinitely better than before. And with this Supreme Court decision in his back pocket, and again, risk of being repetitive, Justice Brown Jackson said this is not a presidential decision. It's a Trump decision. It gives him carte blanche to do anything he wishes and never be held to account because he can just say it's a presidential action, period. That's the big difference here. And you might not agree, and I deeply respect if you don't, but I think that's the real difference here. There's a lot of folks, Democrats, independents, Republicans who don't fancy Trump, all of us in the same boat saying he'll never do that. He can't do that. There's Congress and Congress and Congress and Congress. Well, even if Congress is split, Democrats take back the House, which I think they're going to do, by the way. Republicans are going to take the Senate. The numbers are simply just not good for Democrats. 34 seats that are up, 27 of them, I believe, are Democratic seats. The numbers just aren't good. He can bypass the Constitution. He can do unconstitutional acts. He can do illegal acts. Oh, but they're presidential actions, so therefore there is no accountability. And that accountability rolls down the hill. Because how does a military, how does an attorney general, which Project 2025 makes a direct report to the presidency as of now that it is an almost semi-independent agency, if it comes other than that the president appoints the attorney general, appoint and confirm by the Senate, but it makes the attorney general a direct report to the president, period. There's no longer any fence in between any independence. It's all right there. It fundamentally changes the country in ways that we never conceived the United States could be. We never thought that 1930s Germany and 1920s Italy could happen here. But that's exactly what Project 2025 is. And this Supreme Court decision with full immunity is what is the vessel that it can be delivered through, because you can bypass Congress.
Well, this isn't 1930s Germany. The numbers of us that are Democrats, that are liberals, we're not outnumbered the way the Jewish people were outnumbered in Nazi Germany. And I think that if he had federal troops out there and they were firing on somebody, it would be a big state kind of thing, and he'd lose immediately. And I don't think that our soldiers would fire in the crowds. I think there would be riots, and cities would start burning. I don't think we act like he's just going to do that, all this stuff, and we're all going to sit back and go, well, the Supreme Court said he had the power, so I guess we'll just have to knuckle under and let him be Hitler. I'm not going to do that. I will become an insurgent fighter in that nightmare scenario you're talking about. I don't think that nightmare could come to pass. I think that he is not, everybody is kind of on that Republican side, except for the Cheneys and what's the other guy, as a singer, what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Something, it's interesting.
Whose name?
The people that, pardon?
I'm trying to help you figure out who you're talking about, but I missed the beginning of it.
What's his name? It's like, it's not Kissinger, but it's a K name.
Adam Kinzinger, the former U.S. House representative from, actually, I think he might have been from Iowa.
You have those old-fashioned Republicans who we would disagree with on everything that are out there campaigning for her. I think a lot of those people in Congress are nervous. I think that the crazy guy, what's his name, who's the head of the Senate, I can't think of his name right now. I'm kind of fading. I've been up very early watching the news today. My St. Louis again. What's the guy? Something.
Mitch McConnell?
I want to call him Mike Smith, but that's not his name. It's the guy that's the head that kicked out the previous speaker and put this nutbag in. And
Matt Gaetz.
No.
Matt Gaetz in
the head
Florida.
of the House. What's his name? Anyway, he was on last week. He was on, and the guy from CNN, read the Arnold Palmer comments to him. He goes, how can you defend this talking about Arnold Palmer's penis, right? And that guy is just sitting there going, well, Trump says outrageous things. But you can tell he was on the hot seat. He couldn't defend it, but he just kind of kept trying to change the subject. So I think a lot of those guys are like, they know he's a nightmare. I think they will box him in the same way they boxed him in when he was going to get rid of Obamacare. They realized that would be political suicide, and they didn't give him that. He wanted his border wall.
They know.
Didn't give him that. He had to steal from veterans to get what he got.
They know he's a nightmare, but he's the nightmare that the billionaires that own them, same billionaires that own Trump, they're taking orders. Yeah, they might be uncomfortable on camera when Jake Tapper is pushing them on this ridiculous shit that falls out of Trump's face. They don't have to answer for it. They don't have to answer to it. Same billionaires that own them, same billionaires that have bought them their House and Senate seats, are the same billionaires that are trying to buy the presidency. It's not, I don't think it's because they're embarrassed. Maybe they are on some human level. If some of them have any humanity left, somebody like Gates, I'm not even sure. It seems like he was grown in a very strange science lab somewhere. But that said, the same billionaires that own Trump are the same billionaires that own Matt Gaetz and Mike Johnson and Louis Gohmert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lord Boebert and Scott Perry here in Pennsylvania and Paul Gosar in Arizona. It's all the same owners. The Republican, what used to be the Republican Party, what used to be a functioning actual political party with leadership and vision and guidance and policy and issues, does not exist. It is a wholly owned subsidiary now. It is anti-government. It is anti-everything. There are no real leaders within it. There is no real vision. There is no real future. There is no real policy positions, it is simply chaos and division, and all the while billionaires get richer. Period. They have decided that democracy is no longer convenient.
Well, they were trying to do that ever since Reagan said we should make the government small enough to drown in a bathtub.
That's
40 years
Grover
ago.
Norquist. Yep. And still, and even a guy like him has become silent on some of this stuff. And he's owned by the same billionaires too, but at least he's shut up. And which is about the only kind of maybe when you say that the gentleman was on camera looking extremely uncomfortable and he can't answer for it, maybe the only thing that they can do is be silent now, because they're never going to talk against it, because they're getting paid by the same people. The least they can do is stay out of the press, and then they don't have to answer for it. But then again, they're all running for re-election too, aren't they? That same congressman that, Jake Tapper beat over the head with the Trump quotes, and he just giggles and laughs, and Governor Sununu in New Hampshire and all. They don't have to answer for any of that. They're all owned by the same people. They can fluff it off and push it away. They're all owned by the same people. They're all going to get reelected, by the way. Probably 96% of the U.S. House is going to get reelected. It's funny, the American people have about a 12% approval rating of the U.S. House, but 96+% of people in their individual given U.S. House districts will say, my personal congressperson's awesome.
Yes.
And that's why you never see turnover.
Pork.
And you never see turnover. I mean, very, very rarely.
That's
So-
because they bring home the pork. We used to have 2 Democratic senators when I was in college from Mississippi. John C. Stennis, which is Stennis Space Center is named after. They test the NASA rocket motors and all that stuff down inland. I can't remember which waterway they're on. That's here. That's because Senator Stennis was the head of the Armed Services Committee. We got all kinds of stuff, pork barrel kind of stuff like that. The funniest one was I was in college, and I basically worked in the radio, television, and film department, even though I was a graphic design major, because I understood all that technical stuff. And somebody asked me, do you want to go film football games? And I said, oh, no way. And they said, you're right on the bus or the airplane with the cheerleaders. And I said, where do I sign up? And so I was staff in the radio, television, and film department, even though it wasn't my major. And we got to go to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Michigan. Not Michigan, Maryland, because of Senator Stennis. He got all these colleges jobs to make training films for the Army. And we went to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but when you go to the gate there, the guys wear the chrome helmets and the ascots and the leggings that look like they're from World War I, and they have their M16s at attention. And it's very hush-hush, very secret. We all had to sign NDAs when we went in there. And we didn't understand anything that we were filming for these training videos. It's not a secret that these guys train to do all kinds of nuclear and chemical warfare countermeasures. And so they were training these guys on things that got to be obsolete now. But there was a thing that loads on the back of a deuce and a half, like one of those garbage things where they drop it off, and then a truck comes by and it cranks it back up on the flatbed and hauls it away. You see those at behind major department stores and stuff, with all the cardboard boxes and garbage from big facilities like that. And these guys would live in these containers, and they were decontaminating themselves, and, crazy chemicals and stuff. Out of them X number of times before they ran out had to be resupplied. And I couldn't tell you what those chemicals were. The only chemical name I know is the one in Brazil, tetrahydrozoline. But I'm standing there, I've got hair down to my shoulders, and I'm asking this general that's walking around with us, I said, so if these guys are deployed, and it's all chemical warfare, and the nukes are going off, the rest of America, aren't we all dead? And he goes, well, that could be one scenario. And I think we were having lunch or something, and Dennis Webster, the head of broadcasting, was kicking my shin under the table like, shut up, you dumbass hippie. And I'm going, well, if we're all dead, what's the purpose of this? Just to get the last lick in? You know, these guys shoved this thing to a nuclear silo and launched the blast of the missiles that didn't go off or something. And the general's looking at me like, they have all these war plans, right? They have all these crazy plans, and this is like, 189th on the list, I guess, for the end of the world, that we were all ducking and covering for in grade school. And the disconnect of what they were doing and, what would be the scenario that this stuff would have to be done in. I could only imagine these guys in these big rubber suits that look like spacesuits in the middle of, 98-degree weather, sweating away. I was like, air conditioning in those suits? And they're like, oh no, there's no air conditioning. These guys are going to die of heat frustration if this happens during the summertime. And they were like, oh no, they won't. They'll be able to go back into the decontaminate. Just like watching this end of the world doomsday training film that we're making. And then we had like a DOD guy who shot all this footage. I didn't understand what was going on. Nothing that the Soviets could secretly or ever hose. I couldn't tell them anything that they probably couldn't get from the spy satellite. And it was all edited in secret and delivered to the Department of Defense. And I just thought, this is inane. But that's our government. Our military is way, way out there. And some of these guys are disconnected. They're in those things. But if Trump were to start to go out and say to these same guys, I want you to drop a nuke on Detroit. I hate Detroit. It's a terrible place. They wouldn't do that. I don't know that he could get any commander to fire on Americans or round them up. I don't know that he could do that. I don't know that the permanent people, the civil servants in there, which he couldn't fire enough people to get finally a yes man to do those things. And if he did, it'd be like a Kent State reaction. So that's why I'm hopeful. Even if he gets in again, which is a very real, it's like a coin toss at this point. How are we going to fight him if he gets in? The gloom and doom is fine, but I think I still have faith that people are going to go, wish we'd have voted for Harris, and they're going to fight back if Trump has a second term. And I think we might be able to judge him somehow. I can't believe if he does something horrible like having people ordering troops to fire on somebody, the Supreme Court would still grant him immunity for that. I think this is a get out of jail for the campaign thing, but I can't believe they do that if he were actually to get in. I think cooler heads would have to prevail here at some point.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, thank you for being part of the program, as always, sir. I appreciate it very much, and until we have a chance to talk again, please take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you. I'm sure that we'll chat again soon. Thank you for calling and being part.
Okay, buddy. I still don't like the jingle, but go ahead and play it. I'll just mute the sound.
You got it. Fair enough. 8:05. Coming at 5 minutes
find
after.
It. See if you can
You
find
know
it.
it's coming.
See if you can find another one. Is there any
No,
other
that's actually
Kennedy jingle?
No, I don't think Bobby actually had one, but I can search for it. But anyway, that's it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Cheers.
I hope you feel better about
Yeah,
this.
well, I think that ship has sailed. We're just going downhill now. It's fine. It's fine. Trust me. I'm good. I'm tired. I'm good to go. But anyway, thanks. I appreciate it. The kind words are very appreciated. It's very nice of you. To all of you, because you all have lives and things to take care of. This is, my health is not a good thing by any means, but it's kind. It's very, very humanly kind when someone says it. So thank you, Mike. Please take care of yourself. We'll talk again soon.
All right, buddy.
All right, take care. So let me. Oh, just when I thought I was going to get blood back in this arm from holding the phone. That was. Oh wait, what happened? I did not shut that down. I was going to get blood back in my arm. I'd like to try to get. I have to figure out how to hold this damn thing. Good. Go ahead. I know
Hey, yep, it's Randall, huh?
I gotta figure out how to use the stand so I don't have to hold this. Go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. You know, I respect Mike. It's but I totally disagree. I agree more with you. Trump is number one, is experienced now with the presidency. He was totally inept the whole 4 years he was there. He was totally inept to take the Obama disease disaster plan book and throw it in the trash. And consequently, we lost 1 million Americans under his watch.
Well, billionaires don't
But-
like to pay taxes.
And billionaires don't like to pay taxes. Exactly.
The pandemic response, along with so many other governmental agencies and plans and policies and so on, cost money, and billionaires don't like paying taxes. Period. So, hey, we could throw that pandemic plan out the window. We're not going to see a pandemic. The heck with that. Well, we did. Yeah, over.
It was just like
a million.
last night I watched a 2-hour. I can't remember the series on PBS. Great Americans. Anyway, it was about the 1900 bubonic plague outbreak in San Francisco.
The Spanish
That
flu.
is, no, not the Spanish flu. No, bubonic plague. The Spanish flu was 1917.
Oh, what year did you
No,
say?
bubonic plague, and they didn't even realize in 1900 half the doctors in this country didn't even believe in germs still, and they did not know how it was transmitted. Well, we know today how bubonic plague is transmitted. It's transmitted by either physical contact or from fleas. Bubonic plague cases pop up in Arizona and New Mexico, 1 or 2 every year, because it's in the wildlife out there, the vermin. But anyway, it was all about the discrimination of Chinese immigrants, that the 1887 law, was passed. No Asian can get citizenship in this country. It's all about the racism, and then the whites in San Francisco, they actually thought they were immune. They couldn't get it. It was just those people in their 15-block community. But then it started popping up among white people, and anyway, it was very interesting. So if you can find that on PBS, it's a really great documentary on part of our history in this country. But that's not what we really talk about. I totally agree with you. Trump gets back in, he's going to do anything and everything he wants. And I disagree with Mike. I totally disagree with Mike. The first thing Trump's going to do, he's going to purge the military. He's going to purge all these generals, admirals, et cetera, colonels, majors. He's going to purge them. He's going to make sure the officers that are still there, that they get promoted. And he's going to make sure that they are in charge of all the military units. So anything can happen, is what I'm trying to say. So I agree with you on that, number one. Number two, Andrew and I, we've already voted. We did mail in here in PA. And we already got, she has email. I do not use email. She got an email that, her ballot was received by our county board of elections, and her signature and the date were correct. So her vote's going to count. I went on my county
website, and I'll look myself up, and yes, mine's been accepted. So my signature and the date has been accepted under PA voter law. So there's 2 votes for Harris, and obviously I voted straight down to the bottom, blue. I am scared of my neighbors. They're both gun nuts. One across the street and one next door to me. The one next door to me, you got a brand new MAGA hat. It's camo, and it's Make America Great Again, up 2024.
Made in China.
Made in China. It's all made in China. We know that. But he's like, he's totally gone on conspiracy theories. Or all these misstatements about Vice President Harris's policies. It was like a month ago. He was like raving and ranting, like, "Oh, she's gonna tax everybody's capital gains when you don't even have capital. That means your house goes up in value, and you got to pay it." And I said, "No, you did not read it." I said, "You did not read it. It's only for people that make over $100 million a year would pay a percentage of capital gains before they sell their stocks, property, or whatever." And it just goes down from there. The misinformation across this nation. And I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that Kamala will win Pennsylvania.
I'm just hopeful that when the detention camps come, you and I get a chance to be at the same camp.
Yeah, you know what?
I mean, that'll be
that's what I was thinking too. I went to college with a Japanese American, whose parents were in the camp in Arizona for 4 years. Yeah. And she told me horror stories. This is back when I was, 18 to 21 in college in the early 70s. She told me horror stories that her parents had told her about it, and they lost everything. They lost their business. They lost their home. It was all confiscated, by the federal government. And our government has finally apologized for that. It's just like Biden this week. I was so proud of Biden this week, finally apologizing to indigenous tribes nationwide of our government stealing their children and pushing them into boarding schools here in the East, like in Jim Thorpe, PA, which was not Jim Thorpe, PA then, but to whitenize them to white culture.
and convert them to Christianity.
Convert them to Christianity too. Absolutely. I
believe I have that right.
No, you do that right. Yeah, it's like I went to college with Native Americans. There were full-blooded Cherokee, because the Cherokee, one of the sections of the Cherokee was able to hide out in the Blue Ridge Mountains and Appalachian Mountains there between eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. They were able to hide out from the federal troops that Jackson sent. It's like, the Seminoles were able to hide out in the swamps in Florida from being deported on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma territory. And I heard stories from those fellow classmates that have been passed down for generations on discrimination here in this country against the original settlers. But anyway, yeah, I hope we are in the same camp. Absolutely. At least I'll have one friend there. Well, at least I'll have one friend I know there. I'm sure there'll be other friends.
Yeah,
there
I mean, yeah, if they do what they say, yeah, there'll be a lot of us. There'll be a lot of us.
There'll be
half the country.
What do you think? Do you think he would go after? Do you think he would go after the Obamas and the Bidens and the Harris families first, or do you think he would wait until he started with lesser minions like ourselves?
That's actually a very interesting question because I don't know exactly. It's a really big applause line in the various Nuremberg style rallies that he holds across the country. And I think it's somewhat like the abortion debate, that the dog catching the car. It's much more of an applause line and a rallying cry for the people that worship him to say, we're going to go get him, we're going to go get him, than it is to actually go get them. I could certainly see there being a sacrificial lamb, if you will. Do I think he's going to send federal troops to arrest Joe and Jill Biden and literally put them in prison? I don't, because honestly, I don't think he has the stones. Do I think I could see him doing it to Hillary Clinton. Boy, does he hate her. And I could see him doing it to Barack Obama because he's black. And boy, he just hates black people. But I think there could be one, I know what word I want to say because I can't think of a better one, and I hope it's not the wrong word. I think there might be one token arrest. But at the end of the day, I don't think you can go after all of them because they're actually it's more beneficial to him to have them out so he can rail against them. You take one of them and you put them in prison and you never hear from them again. It's kind of hard to use them as a scapegoat for things. And I guess you could argue the opposite side of that, well, he could round them up, put them all in jail, and then tell his base, told you I'd do it. And that could be a rallying cry too, but it's also sometimes more useful, if that's the right word, to have them out and in public where they can be a constant source of cannon fodder, so to speak, a constant source of they can continue to be a target for his rantings and ravings and ragings. But I can tell you this. Your question was, do I honestly think he's going to do it? I don't know that I can answer that, to be very honest with you. I really don't. If I could see into the future like that, I'd just get good lottery numbers and I'd leave the country. But here's what I can tell you. Do I think he's capable of it? I very much do. Do I think there is a significant number of minions, worshipers, followers under him willing to do such things? I absolutely do. Is Trump owned, financed by the same billionaires that the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world who are talking about locking up all the Democrats or just killing all of us? They're all bought and paid for by the same billionaires. The same billionaires that paid for and wrote Project 2025. They're all the same people. So I think that these things are just impossible in America. No, they're not. They really aren't. My goodness, think about some of the things that have taken place on American soil. The Salem witch trials. The fact that Rhode Island split off from Massachusetts because it was too religious. It was too religiously repressive. The Trail of Tears that you mentioned. The cleansing of indigenous peoples in North and South America by European settlers. The number of people who were killed either through warfare or just because they had no immunity to European diseases. I mean, even conservative conservative estimates of those deaths are 500 million people. It's the largest genocide in the history of the planet. Human genocide in the history of the planet. So we had a Supreme Court that declared that a black man is only 3/5 of a person, and that it was okay that they be owned as property, that other human beings could be owned. So are we capable of these things? Hell yes, we are. Yes, we are. Do I know that it will happen? Am I certain that it will happen? I can't answer that because I can't see into the future. And I don't mean that as a punt of an answer. I'm just telling you the truth. But think, in the 248 years of the existence of this country, think of some of the things that our own government and our own systems and societies and legal practices and structure of law have determined to be legal. Again, 3/5 of a person, Trail of Tears. And it could go on and on and on and on. Now, eventually, we grew up a bit. And then segregation, separate but equal wasn't legal anymore. And schools and the military were integrated. Slavery was overturned. The damage has always been there. Those are scars on our country that haven't healed. Or at least they're pretty damn evident, even if they have scabbed over. It's kind of a gross analogy, forgive me, but you know what I'm saying. But it's kind of gross, but you know what I'm saying. There's still scars on our skin; we can see them. And I don't. For all the people that seem to think that could never happen, that could never happen, that could never happen. Why? What makes you think that it couldn't happen? Think about what's happening in Texas right now with the abortion laws in Texas. And this actually has nothing to do with your opinions on abortion itself. Let's actually take that aside. You might be the most fervently anti-abortion person on the planet. And if you are, it's your American right to be so. But let's think about what's part of that abortion law is. That you can be tracked by the state government of Texas if you leave the state to receive abortion care. You could be subject to arrest when you return. Your neighbors can simply call the police and say, I think the woman across the street's having an abortion. And you can have that person arrested. You might be the beneficiary of a $50,000 bounty. It's 2024 in the United States of America. And that's how one of our so-called states, because I don't even think that, every 5 seconds they talk about seceding down in Texas. Good, go. You want to build a border wall? Build it around Texas. Look at Ron DeSantis in Florida. You cannot teach history. You can teach the history that only Ron DeSantis thinks is worthy of being taught. This is the United States, for fuck's sake. Are you shitting me? So tell me that none of this stuff can happen because this is the United States? From that standpoint, I hope Mike is right. I hope that Republicans of good nature would stand up and say, damn it, no, that's not how this country operates. But is it really? Is it how we operate? Or is it not how we operate? Depending on how you want to look at it. You think about these things. The state of Georgia has wiped 750,000 voters off of their voter rolls illegally, largely because they're black. And they don't think black people should vote. And they largely vote Democratic. And that's not good for billionaires. So we'll just take their vote away. This is America, for Christ's sake. It goes back to the same question that I asked during the week. Geez, Jeff, why are you so pissed about this? Why aren't you pissed about it? And I can't make you that way. I'm not here to tell people how to think. It's anti-American to tell people how to think. I'm trying to get you to think for yourself. And if that thinking for yourself is that you don't agree with me, then God bless you. But instead of asking me why I'm upset, why aren't you? I'd like to think that what Mike says is true, that the better angels of people's nature will come out. I hope that they will. I hope none of what Project 2025 wants to happen, and some of it, by the way, is already being implemented. I'd like to think that none of it will ever come to pass. But your question was, can it really happen? Are we capable of such a thing in this country? Oh, yeah, we are. We are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
56% of Republicans think that violence is a perfectly justifiable reason to steal elections and to change the outcome of elections and to implement the policies that you want to see implemented. Except the missing part of that, of course, is that Republicans don't do policy. So are we really not capable of that? 64% of Republicans think that President Putin is a better president of his country than Joe Biden is of this one. For Christ's sake, think about that. Think about the sizable American Nazi movement in this country during World War II.
No, it was during the 20s. There were 30,000. There were 30,000 Klan members that marched up in front of
in the rally at Madison Square Garden, the original Madison Square Garden. And the
American Party Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden.
And the very, very famous and significant Americans, Lindbergh, Joe Kennedy originally wanted peace with Hitler. Originally,
Lindbergh, in my opinion, Jeff.
I mean, I guess my point is,
not only democracy, he was a traitor to our country because he loved Hitler.
But I think your question is insightful in a very different way. It's not, can we tell the future? I think your question. Your better question. I mean, respectfully, in my opinion, the better question that you asked is, do you really think we're capable of such things? Again, for all the good and the bad, as much as we look at history on this program, for all the good and the bad, American history tells us, yes, actually, we are perfectly capable of such things. And we are. And that doesn't even take into account the entire right-wing hate media structure. I've said on this program before, if there was a Fox News in 1932, I'm not sure Roosevelt himself could have been elected. I think Hoover could have been reelected even after causing the Great Depression, if there was a Fox News back then. Can you imagine? Because remember, you have an entire right-wing hate media structure that's telling you that all of this stuff is perfectly okay. It's okay to round up tens of millions of brown people and put them in camps. It's okay. It's good for you. Another $8 trillion in tax cuts for the richest 1% in this country. But that's good for you. That benefits you. It's going to trickle down to you. The only thing that's going to trickle on you is when Elon Musk pisses on you because he doesn't think you're people. Dear God, he doesn't think the people that work for him are even, he doesn't even think they should be paid. They should work for him because they think he's that special. They should just work for him because he's Elon Musk. I've thought an awful lot about what you said a few weeks ago, that he's an apartheidist. He is. I thought about that more and more and more. He didn't come to this country by accident. He could have built Tesla in the United Kingdom. He could have built it in Germany. There are other countries, Australia. There's other countries on Earth where he could have become the mega monster billionaire that he is. But he came here because when he came here, the southern states were already anti-union. They were already, massive tax breaks for corporations. It was already happening. Fascism was already underway. And fascism, the economic component of fascism, was well underway. It was Nixon. It was Reaganism. I'm not talking about the dictatorial part of it. Because, Jesus, even Reagan thought we should still have elections. The economic part of fascism, where rich people decide everything. They get all the money. Government is here for corporations and no one else. That shit started with Reagan. Are we capable of these things? Are we as an American people capable of Project 2025? Are we capable of detaining tens of millions of people simply because of their ethnic origin or the color of their skin or their political persuasion or their family name? You're bloody well right we are. Yes, we are. Are you trying to tell me? I've seen some of the things in the chat that generals would never allow troops to be used. And General Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs during Trump's regime, eventually resigned. I mean, McMaster walked away. God, Rex Tillerson, was a billionaire, walked away. And he was making Secretary of State piling his pockets full of cash. He walked away. Are you trying to tell me that some young kid who might be an enlisted man from, I'll take Mike's state, from Mississippi, who's dirt poor, who's never made so much money in his life as he has as an enlisted man in the military, when his sergeant, corporal, captain refuses to carry out these orders, and a Trump loyalist in a black shirt comes to him and says, "You want to lead this unit, son? You follow my orders." He'll follow him. There's always going to be somebody. Maybe half the military walks away. There's 1.4 million Americans who are ready to be deployed into a war zone within 18 hours. And active duty and that's just the Army, an active duty in this country right now. Say half of them walk away. 700,000 of them walk away and say, no, this is anti-American. There's still 700,000 left. Maybe it's alarmist. Maybe it is. Maybe. I've never been one for hyperbole on this program. I think it's unseemly. I don't think you scream and call names for ratings. I think you tell the truth. Maybe that's why I don't have enough ratings, because maybe I'm just too damn. Maybe it's what April said. Maybe I'm too boring. Maybe I tell the truth too much. But when Randall says, when his question is, are we capable of such things. Yes, we are. Did anybody think on January 5th, 2021, that something like January 6th was possible? I'm not talking about, by the way, that the FBI already had intelligence that it was going to happen, so did the Secret Service. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about you and me, Americans who had to wake up, put our pant legs on one at a time, and go to work. I listened to what was happening while I was working. The place I was working at the time allowed you to have one earbud in. Just keep one earbud open in case we need to call you. Other than that, you're welcome to listen to music or whatever it is during the day. I happen to listen to MSNBC. I was listening to Chuck Todd. So what is happening? What the hell is happening here? This is a full-scale attempt to overthrow the American government. Did anybody on January 5th think that such a thing was possible? We didn't. But it happened. So that's the real insight of the question. It's not whether you believe it will happen or not, in my opinion. The real insight of the question is, are we capable? You're damn right we are. You're damn right. 80 million people, roughly, are going to vote for this man. Even with everything that they know, with as dangerous as he is, with as racist as he is, with as much as he lies, with the way he feels about women and people of color and Democrats and union members, the way he feels that the uniformed military are suckers, the dictator that he wants to be, that his first ex-wife said he wanted to be, that the people who served in his administration says he wants to be. And still probably 80 million people are going to vote for him. So are we capable of these kind of things? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I'm with Mike. I hope, I know I'm being a little repetitive, and I'll turn it back over to Randall here in a second. I'm with Mike. I want to think that the better angels of their nature will prevail. Can we be sure of that? No. Can we be sure that those better angels will not prevail? No. We can't be sure either way. Randall's question is something like this really capable of happening in the United States? Yes, it is. It's exactly why the government of Canada runs a continuous scenario across all of its ministries and governmental departments about what do we do as Canada, as a nation, as a people, when democracy ends in the United States. Mexico has begun to do the same thing. When George W. Bush was awarded the presidency by the Supreme Court, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the Finns, the Belgians, the Portuguese, the Spanish, all tightened up their immigration laws because they were expecting an influx of Americans seeking somewhere else to live. Those laws are still in place. Other nations on earth believe that we are capable of this, that we are capable of disintegrating and turning on each other, that there is a second civil war coming. God, I hope not. I absolutely hope not. And forced into a corner and forced to make a choice. If I had to, my life absolutely depended on pick one or the other. We will or we will not have a second civil war. I'm still going to lean toward will not. Can I be certain of that? I can't. And can I say that we're not capable of such a thing as a population? I can't. Because we are. We just are. So go ahead, Randall. A few more minutes and we got to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm optimistic with you, Jeff, that, and with Mike, that it does not come down to that. At the same time, my brain always goes in scenarios. What is possible? And I'm glad you keep pointing that out. What is possible? Because anything is possible. Anything. And, you know, if the worst possibility happens, and, you know, I told my wife, I told my children, I obviously haven't told my grandchildren, they're too young. Yeah, I fully expect to be picked up sometime between 2 and 5 a.m. by black suit military. Absolutely know that. If it happens. But I also know, you mentioned Canada. I'm going to say a prayer tonight. I'm going to say a prayer that part of their contingency plan is what they did. My generation.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a couple of friends that did it. They left this country rather than being drafted against the Vietnam War and went to Canada. And they fully expected they would be expatriates forever until Jimmy Carter
Told them to come
said
home.
he said you can all come back, amnesty. So, yeah, I hope Canada. I don't speak Spanish, and I'm 72. I'm too old to learn a language. But yeah, I hope Canada will take us in rather than see us put in camps. If that's what the scenario of the future really brings, but let's hope it doesn't. And yeah, I'm looking back. You know, my brain, when you were talking, my brain was going over. You know, I'm a history major from college. My brain's just going over different parts of our history in this country, and you know, I'm going back and I'm seeing the Klan growing, so millions of Klan members in the North during the 20s, and marching up 30, 50,000, you know, in Washington in their hoods.
Well,
And
you will also remember that prior to the Civil War and at the beginning of the Civil War, New York City, Manhattan especially,
oh no, they
almost
had
became-
the riot.
they almost
had the riot.
they almost
had the
became
riot.
part of the Confederacy, because Wall Street and rich folks in New York were making millions of dollars, even millions back then, in what a dollar got you back in the 1860s. They were making millions off of the cotton trade. They almost
I thought you were
seceded. They almost seceded and became part of the Confederacy because their fortunes were at stake. I mean, to think that we're not capable of these things, money buys you out of damn near everything in this country. If you have it, they don't care anymore. Musk doesn't care about democracy. He just doesn't. Peter Thiel doesn't care about democracy. He's a billionaire. Jeffrey Ash doesn't care about democracy. He's a billionaire. The Kochs are libertarians. They never believed in government anyway. We're very capable of these things. Doesn't mean they're going to happen. I hope Mike is right. I hope the American people rise up and say, no, this is wrong. This is anti-American. But are we capable of it? Yeah. Goddamn, yeah, we are. We are. We are capable of it. It comes very much down to what President Johnson said. When you can convince the poorest white man that a black man's coming for what he has, he'll do anything. He'll do anything. And to an extent, Trump has played on that. Trans and gay people are going into your kids' bathrooms and they're coming after them. Hey, black folk, brown people are coming for you. Hey, brown people, black folk are coming for you. Asians, everybody hates you. Jews, come on, you're rich like us. How can you be democratic? And if you really want to boil down Trump's argument to the Jewish community, that's pretty much what it is. You're rich like me. How the hell can't you support me? I'll make you richer. More rich. Richer. Grammar. But you get my point. So, last thoughts. We got to get out of here.
Well, last thoughts, number one, and this goes to Mike. Your point that New York almost went with the Confederacy because of money.
Yep.
But then you look at 1863, the 3 days of mass riots in New York City. Because, if you got $200, you can buy your way out of the draft. But 99% of the people don't have $200. $200 back in 1863 was like $100,000 today. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I keep bringing up historic facts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, but that's those who do not know their history are condemned to repeat it. So yeah.
I was just trying to make a point. There was 2 points of New York culture. There were the rich and there were the citizens, and the mass.
Right.
The mass.
Yeah, the masses.
The mass of voters. Yeah, I'm just, I'm praying every day that Vice President Kamala Harris wins.
I just want to be plain before we wrap up the program. My point of view is not necessarily to disagree with Mike. I hope Mike's right. I really do.
I hope Mike's right too. I hope Mike's right too.
I hope that if the shooting starts and if the detention camps get open and all that the American people rise up. I hope he's right. I do hope he's right. I'm not convinced that he's right. And if we look at our own American history, are we capable of these things? Yes, we are. And we have been. Our history shows us that. It just does. Eventually, the UK and nations throughout Europe had slavery like the United States did. They all got rid of it long before we did. And they still carry the scars of that. Black, darker skinned folks in France there's still racial problems and tensions in France. They're still in the United Kingdom. But they moved along a hell of a lot quicker than we did in this country. We are capable of these things, and it's sad. And it's because largely, not exclusively, but largely because of race and because a very, very small handful of people with an incalculable amount of money have convinced a lot of people with no money that other people who don't look like them, who also have no money, are coming for them. The root of greed I said that wrong. Cause of greed as a root problem to a lot of this is inescapable. Part of it's just flat out racism. Simply put, greed is part of this too. Do you think just once Peter Thiel ever sits back, who by the way is another South African immigrant, Peter Thiel, is very similar to Musk. He's a little older, but left South Africa when apartheid fell. To the Koch brothers, does Jeffrey Yass, to the Mercers, Adelson when he was alive, Betsy DeVos, the DeVos family, all billionaires, the Walton family. Their actions have proven if they're watching their TVs 2 years from now, when Fox, because MSNBC and CNN have been shut down, begins to report about the first detention camp opening, that any of these billionaires are going to look at their TV and go, "We went too far." They won't, because their fortunes will probably have increased by a third, and they would have gotten massive tax cuts again. Project 2025, remember, talks about eliminating taxes on the top 1%, not just cutting them, eliminating them, period. Musk and Thiel and Yas would pay no tax. None. None. So do we honestly think that the Walton family is going to sit back and go, "Holy shit, he really did it"? They're throwing Democrats in the detention camp. No, they won't. They've proven that. It's a means to an end. Trump is a means to an end for them. I know it. Sometimes I even hear myself and I'm like, it's dystopian what you're saying. It is. It's like a bad science fiction, dystopian, alternate future history novel. But it's also not. It's kind of around the corner. If we, as an electorate, don't make the right decisions, and you can disagree with Vice President Harris on every single policy position that she might have. She has policy positions I don't agree with. But I do think she'll stand for re-election in 4 years. Trump won't. Vance won't. Remember, Trump said it. Vance agrees. Just vote for me. November, you'll never have to vote again. Told you. They're telling you. I don't have to be able to see into the future. They're already telling you. They said it. They keep saying it. So, anyway, go ahead, wrap up, my friend. Somebody else is trying to call me, which is late. We need to end, but go ahead.
Real quick. Number one, yes, I'll be dictator on day one.
Yep.
And I'll have to be dictator for a day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now, what gets me really irked is the billionaires that are not right wing in this country.
Not enough of them.
They've all given up. Great wealth can produce overwhelming cowardice.
Yeah. Did I lose you? Did I lose you?
There's freedom to speak.
Oh, okay. All right. I gotta run. We need to sign off. I gotta end the program. Let's talk this week. You can always reach us. All right? Oh, okay. Everything just kind of shut down there. Weird. I hope he's on that. Somebody else was trying to double in, but what the hell am I talking about? Somebody else was trying to ring in, but we're done for tonight. That's the end of the show for tonight. No more calls. I've never had to say that. I cannot tell you, by the way, how proud I am to be able to say that. I'm so giddy at having to say to all the folks who tried to call in, and I see it's a 601 number. I have no idea who that is. That's a new one. Let's go. Oh, no, it's Mike again. Is it Mike? Maybe that's Mike, 601. I'm not sure. I don't have it saved here, so I'm not sure. It might be Mike. I apologize that we can't get to Mike's repeat call. No harm intended, no shutting anybody down, nothing like that. We're just at the end of the program. It's 8:56. We're all done. Now, here's what's coming. As long as I am healthy enough, I will be here. George and I will be here all week, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 9. I am also on call for work this week. So there's an excellent chance, and you might want to tune in for this because it's very entertaining when it happens. When a customer calls me that I have to pay attention to, George gets to take over the program. Very exciting shit. You might want to be here for it. It's fun. George loves when it happens. Deeply enjoys when I have to literally walk away from the program and he gets to turn and take over because I have to work. So I am on call for work this week. So you might want to tune in just to see if I get a phone call. It also means that I'm on call next Sunday as well. If I'm well enough, I will. What happened to what happened, my health this past week has not been good. It continues not to be good. It's not going to really ever be good again. Just declining, just is part of life. It's a cycle. And we're only conscious of here on this earth for a short time, and then we move on to the next plane. So we'll be moving on to the next plane. It's fine. But as long as I'm well enough, I'll be here Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Our plan is to be back here with you next Sunday, our last Sunday program before the end of the election cycle. GCPR is doing live election night programming on Tuesday, November 5th. Don't exactly know what kind of form that's going to take. Probably just a variety of hosts. We'll be watching some of the results come in. We'll be chatting with you as well. The Villain's View comes up immediately following us on GCPR. To our friends at Hot 101, thank you for allowing us to grace your airwaves yet again. The music resumes after us on Hot 101. Back to GCPR, 11 p.m. Conversations with T. Nathan. Tomorrow morning, Mike, you want a happier, funnier program that can still touch on some serious subjects, then you need The Sound of Coffee with Thomas tomorrow morning. It's exactly the kind of program that Thomas tries to do. Serious topics with a giggle and with some comedy, with some laughs, and a little more lighthearted. It's exactly what you need. Tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. on GCPR, Thomas with The Sound of Coffee. Villain's View following us, music on Hot 101, T. Nathan from 11, Thomas tomorrow morning from 8. For everybody at GCPR, the entire team, for everyone at Hot 101, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and everybody that surrounds Hot 101, for everyone that surrounds the Kennedy Effect, George, Lynn, Kristen, Daisy the dog, and April Riddick, I'm Jeff Kennedy. We've done about all the damage we can do for another Sunday night. Plan is to be back with you 23 hours from now, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Please go to the home group Facebook page for the program. That other side of information, pinned to the top, is our GoFundMe, asking for help for new studio equipment. If you can give, please do so. If you cannot, I understand. Please read the post anyway and see what you can do. Thank you so very much to everybody for being here. The Villain's View on GCPR starts right now. The music resumes on Hot 101. We'll see you next. I was going to say next week. Well, Hot 101, we'll see you next week. GCPR, we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great night.